Welcome to Quays News. I'm Charlotte Lineker.
And I'm Emily Bertley.
Our top story tonight: thousands of residents across Greater Manchester are still living in unsafe cladded buildings 3 years after the Grenfell Tower tragedy.
Lockdown has caused the residents to become isolated in this unsettling environment. I went to find out more. The iconic indie Manchester nightclub 42's is hosting a crowdfund after lockdown has left them with empty pockets. Isaac Shelton is reporting live.
Yeah, thanks girls. So here I am outside the iconic nightclub that is 42's. I'm sure this site is familiar to many students and young people across the city, but it might not be for much longer. The owners here have had to start a crowdfunder just to ensure they can continue operating post-pandemic. Now, they've already raised £11,000, but that's nowhere near the 60k they are looking for. I spoke to Simon Jackson, who's the general manager here the other day, who told me that this was the last thing they wanted to do, was to beg people for their money, but they felt like they had no other choice, given, apart from the furlough scheme, they have had no economic support. Now, things have slightly changed since yesterday, and last night managers here met with Sasha Lord, who's Manchester's nighttime economy advisor, to discuss different avenues and grants that could keep this club open. Now, there's a lot of love for this club. Search the hashtag #Save42s on Twitter and you'll see people saying that their babies quite simply wouldn't be born without this building. It's been a nightclub dating back to the 60s, at one point even owned by George Best, and the owners here are determined to keep it that way. Staff have even offered to sell cars just so this place can stay open. People have had celebrated many good times here, and including bands such as Blossoms and Cortinas, who I'm told spent perhaps too many nights here. The impact that this has had on the city's nightlife scene and music scene can't be described and can't be compared to any other nightclub or venue around the city. Now, what we do know is that this crowdfunder is still continuing, even if these grants do pull through. The owners here told me they are nervous and they are worried that the economic support isn't going to be there, hence why they're pushing forward with this crowdfunder. But as I understand it, if they do manage to get more economic support from the city council or from the government, then people's money will be refunded. As I said, this place has been a nightclub for, well, dating over 40, 50 years, and it's been the current incarnation of 42's for 20 years. They are determined not to lose this place, and they will be here to host a party at the end of this pandemic.
Thank you. Thousands of residents across Greater Manchester are still living in unsafe cladded buildings 3 years after the Grenfell Tower tragedy.
Lockdown has caused residents to become isolated in this unsettling environment. I went out to find more. Stuck in an unsafe cladded building during a global pandemic. This is a reality for thousands of residents across Greater Manchester.
So we, as a campaign group, obviously we're looking to hold government to account and get more funding. We've also got quite a close community, whether in Manchester, so Manchester and Greater Manchester, and there's a lot of affected buildings there. Obviously, with lockdown, Manchester being one of the first ones to go back into the restrictions, see a lot of our residents, they're stuck at home. It's a weird situation where you almost feel safer outside of a global pandemic than you do inside a building that might be dangerous. This year, the campaigning stepped up a notch because the problem has just escalated. It started off, as I say, with the ACM, so looking at a few hundred buildings, and now most recent statistics that have registered for the latest government funds, 2,784 buildings.
Residents across Greater Manchester rely their safety on Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service, who on average arrive at a scene in 6 to 8 minutes.
They're very responsive. They kind of have to be right now because, again, we're hopeful we'll not see another Grenfell, but there's a possibility. So that's everyone's living on it. You can probably hear that outside. You just think every so often, oh bloody hell, what's going on? Or people report, myself as well, that sometimes you'll hear something outside beeping and you think, oh God, is that an alarm about to go off? So going back to that's how it sort of impacts you.
Thousands of residents are faced with living in an unsafe environment after buying or renting a property.
Obviously, having the epiphany that there is the same cladding, if not or similar cladding to Grenfell Tower in this building, especially spending more time in the building because of the lockdown, it is quite a bit unnerving, especially if anything could could spark up the whole building.
With lockdown putting a halt on the removal of unsafe cladding, it's leaving many to question, when will this scandal end? Emily Bertley, Quays News.
A week into another lockdown for England, and many non-professional carers have found it difficult to cope and care for their loved ones, especially those with Parkinson's. Bethany Noon went to find out more.
Not so much hard, it's been frustrating because there's things that we need to get done and people to see, and it's just not materialising.
This is Anne Williams, a 76-year-old non-professional carer who is caring for 79-year-old Parkinson's sufferer John Williams.
Is it a struggle to just live with the disease?
It's not easy.
Why is it not easy?
Not so much on me, but the pressure it puts on other people where I need looking after. I've never needed looking after. I find it difficult, and the people that are looking after me are absolutely brilliant. But I'd rather I didn't need them.
She has been caring for John for almost 2 years now, but since lockdown she's found it tough to protect and care for John against the coronavirus.
I don't know. I'm texting for a walk where really she's got enough on her plate.
Do you miss taking dogs for walks?
Yeah, I do, yes. Yes, I do. It's because the walks that we went on, we met other dog walkers, and you're talking to the same people day in and day out.
Although Parkinson's is different for everyone, the current UK government advice for people with Parkinson's is to stay at home and limit your social contacts as much as possible, as the NHS has placed Parkinson's sufferers on the most vulnerable list.
I have the daughter and the grandchildren. No support whatsoever from any of the official places. But having said that, at this moment I am coping, and John is all right, and I don't think that he's an emergency case. Should it be an emergency case, then I'd have to try and get it from the doctor. If for some reason I couldn't do it, or my daughter couldn't do it, you know, we would have to work around that. I've never come across that yet, but obviously I'm not getting any younger, same as John's not getting any younger, so it could happen in the near future, because I am 76 on the 24th.
Bethany Noon, Quays News.
With the regular Diwali celebrations being halted for this year, a new week-long virtual festival has emerged. Earlier we spoke to Nick Clark from Walk the Plank about this event.
Digital Diwali obviously came from the current situation with coronavirus. Usually we would be presenting and producing events in town squares like Manchester, Bolton, Oldham and Bury. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We've sent over 500 make-at-home lantern kits across the region, and we've been receiving some really nice pictures of them being made and displayed. We wanted it to be an event where people can speak to people, family members and friends that they probably haven't seen for a long time. We're asking all the participants who've received the lanterns, the lantern making kits, to take to their doorsteps after watching the fire spectacle to display their lanterns. And the idea is that, you know, across Greater Manchester, we have all these people on their doorsteps to displaying the lanterns, which kind of, again, connects people across the region.
A week into lockdown, and many have found it difficult, especially those who are on the furlough scheme again. Will Hallows reports.
Sorry about that. Now being 1 week into lockdown, university students should have been seemingly unaffected by the change. But what impact is it really having? Jake Penkethman finds out more.
The University of Salford, one of the few places still currently open during the national lockdown. Following the government's decision to keep education open, what impact is this having?
It definitely had a negative impact. The online learning experience isn't the same as learning in person. I feel like it's important that we go back to university because we can't delay our education forever. It's important for our future careers.
For many students, with learning already solely online, this government decision is likely to go unnoticed.
No, I would say I haven't really noticed a difference because all of my work is online and I don't really see the need to keep the universities open if all of it's going to be online.
How different do you think your university experience would have been if, say, the pandemic hadn't happened?
I definitely think the online teaching now is the new normal, which is unfortunate, but I think it would be more beneficial to be in the classroom if we can be.
Back in September, university students were increasingly being blamed for the spread of the virus. So has the right decision been made sending them back during this lockdown?
I do feel university students, they're being scapegoated a lot at the moment for the rise in cases, but we're no more breaking the rules or doing anything wrong than any other members of society.
Since the beginning of the new term, there have been at least 308 COVID cases at the university, with the real figure likely much higher. Many are now left wondering whether this decision will do more harm than good. Jake Penkethman, Quays News.
So how has lockdown affected you, Emily?
A lot of my work is still, I'm still in uni, so it's not too bad for me. What about you?
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy the blended learning.
Yeah, literally.
Did you celebrate Remembrance this day?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
No? I joined one of the online services on Sunday, although I can't say as though I've done much for today. Today is Remembrance Day, and on November 11th, 1918, the Armistice Agreement was signed to mark the end of World War I. 102 years later, and people are still coming out to pay their respects to those who died.
Unfortunately, COVID restrictions and lockdowns have changed the way we celebrated this year. However, this has not deterred people from paying their respects. The Salford All Saints team broadcasted an online service this Sunday at 11 AM, showing that no matter the crisis, the British public will band together to show their respects.
This is not deterred.
University of Manchester students were fenced in their accommodation blocks on Thursday. In response to this, a rent strike has been organised. Georgia Kelly has more on this.
The anger and the passion that people have shown over the last few days is incredible. Now is the time to mobilise and take action. Collectively, in solidarity with one another, a united, colossal body of young people ready to fight for change.
A peaceful protest was held in Owens Park Fallowfield accommodation for Manchester University. These students were the ones subjected to fencing put around their accommodation, and now they are voicing their opinions.
That change is possible when you believe in it and you work for it.
I managed to get an interview with the main organisation, SAFER, who held this process.
So SAFER, Student Action for a Fair and Educated Response, started a couple of months ago between me and Kathy, who's my fellow co-president, and both of us had some points to make about how terribly we thought that students had been treated. Stands to support students in times of need, to galvanise them, and to stand for student safety.
I also managed to speak to a few of the students as part of their own organisations.
Now, what's your organisation?
So I'm from 9K for What, and we're a broad coalition of lots of different groups coming together here in solidarity with SAFER, who've organised this protest, because one of our demands is that student mental health services need to be better. If they've got money for fences, they should have money for mental health services.
So the rent strike is a kind of response to the poor accommodation here and the fact that we were brought here under the pretense of having face-to-face teaching as well in blended learning, but that was cancelled after day 3. I've never been into the university once. Quite frankly, the university is just not doing enough about it.
Have you received any backlash from the organisation that runs your accommodation for not paying?
So they sent an email out saying that they would, because it's been 14 days now since we rent striked, that they would be increasing it through interest by 3% per day. So that was just a horrible email to get.
For these students, it's all or nothing, even if nothing is what they're left with.
Oh, and finally, if you're looking for something to keep you busy during the second national lockdown, then make sure you keep an eye out on the skies this week, as all 7 planets of the solar system will be visible.
This spectacle means you will be able to spot most planets today with just the naked eye. Libby Lindsay tells us more.
So an important spectacle will be taking place across Manchester and Salford skies this week, and that is because you will be able to see all 7 planets of the solar system.
Jupiter and Saturn are in conjunction with each other. It's known as the Great Conjunction. Definitely trying to image the Great Conjunction. This only happens every 68 years, so it is a great sight to behold. Venus will be placed just below the moon on the 12th of this month, so it'll be easy to be able to spot it out. So you'll have the waning crescent of the moon, and the actual bottom crescent will be pointing towards Venus. Again, on the 13th, the moon will be doing the same to Mercury, pointing exactly the same. Mercury will be just below the moon, so you'll be able to spot it out. A little further out to the south, we have Mars, clearly visible to the eye with its nice orange glow at the moment. Saturn will be slightly higher, and as I say, off to the left, the Jupiter, just above the horizon. Jupiter being the brighter of the two. These fantastic sights.
It seems as though some of you had your eyes on the skies already this week. We have these photos from Adam and Victoria. Here is Victoria with her very flash telescope and the very sophisticated chart to record her findings. Thank you for watching. If you like, you can tweet us at Quays TV.
Be sure to join us again next Wednesday at 5.
Goodbye.
The guy that won deserved it, but then again,